Good evening and welcome to the November 29, 2021 work session of the Mayor and City Council. Tonight we have two items for discussion. Both of them briefings from volunteer committees. The first from the Senior Advisory Committee and the second from the Environmental Affairs Committee. Tech team, if you could bring up Jean Dinwiddie, our Senior Advisory Committee Vice Chair, and Charlene Simpson, our Facility Manager at the Benjamin Gaither Center. Welcome, Jean.
Good evening, and good evening, Mayor Ashman and all the new and veteran councils members, and congratulations to those who have recently won election or re-election. And you introduced me very nicely, Judd. Thank you very much. I'd also like to say hello to my fellow Senior Advisory Committee members who I know are watching, and to all of the older adult residents in the city. Can we have the next slide? Is there a slide? There we go. And next slide. So these are the members of our committee, and I thank you for this opportunity to provide updates on what we've been doing and what we would like to do. And we are awaiting the appointment of our new council liaison. Next slide, please. So those were the names, and here are the pictures. And this is the world we live in now, right? Lots of boxes of happy, smiling people. Next slide, please. So a little bit about demographics of the aging population and the city. As you know, Gaithersburg is one of the most ethnically diverse small cities in the US. That's according to a study just from February. By 2040, so why do older adults matter? By 2040, the number of older adults is expected to grow by 70%. Well, the general population is expected only to grow by 17%. This is sometimes called the gray tsunami. I think of it, of course, as the blue tsunami. 50 of the 215 neighborhoods in the county have more seniors than school-age children. And we, as older adults, we're workers, we're consumers, we pay taxes, and we vote. So next slide, please. So our FY22 objectives we talked about last year when we met. So what we've met or partially met, we've been able to recruit new members of the Senior Advisory Committee. And our recruitment efforts have really focused on improving we had no luck improving the gender makeup, but the racial and ethnic makeup so that our committee could more accurately reflect Gaithersburg's diversity. We made some modest progress in advancing the image of the center. And we have, thank you very much, pursued functional and cosmetic upgrades of BGC. Next slide, please. Our 23 objectives, we will continue, I know it's a little broken record, but we will continue to advocate for a new freestanding senior facility. We would like to conduct 2 surveys. The membership of the BGC is less than 5% of the city's older adult population. And we, as the Senior Advisory Committee, really represent all the older adults in the community. And we'd like to find out what are their needs. We also want to then, once we found out the needs of those 55 plus, look at a second survey about awareness and engagement with BGC. People may not even know the city has a senior center. We will continue to collaborate with the county's Commission on Aging on issues of shared interest. We have a joint public forum planned for May of 2020, 2022, which is Older Americans Month. And the topic will be home and community-based services. And those services allow older adults to stay independent in their homes longer, for as long as possible. We would very much like to add a question regarding senior issues to the city's 2022 biennial citizen survey and the annual budget survey. We were disappointed when the survey came out, the budget survey came out not too long ago, that there were no senior programs mentioned in that in the budget survey, and as you know, we've asked for this in the past. We would also like to advocate for affordable and accessible senior housing. We plan to do that, and any other needs that we may learn of through the survey that we wish to conduct. Next slide, please. So these are the Benjamin Gaither Center member stats as of this month. We have 538 members. And again, that's less than 5% of the city's older adult population. Most of the population, most of the members are female, 3/4. 61% are Gaithersburg residents. And this table on the right shows the age distribution. So you can see that close to half of those members are in their 70s. Eligibility for membership begins at 55. So next slide, please. So what's happened? So this is an update on what's happened in the past year. And this is the COVID response through the reopening in June of 2021. And there was a really robust meal delivery program to seniors. Also, something we all should be particularly proud of is this senior care program. I am also, in addition to serving on this committee, I'm also a commissioner on the County Commission on Aging, and I co-leader on the Age-Friendly Health Initiative for the county. And everyone is looking for how can we combat social isolation? And the BGC staff actually did something about it. And this is really particularly noteworthy. The staff made in excess of 900 contacts with the members per month. They made calls to say, how are you doing? So while not every older adult has access to the technology, everyone has a telephone, and those calls were made. This was really an impressive program. The also, even while the senior center was closed, we had social programs. We did virtual trips throughout the world and had outdoor meetups when weather permitted. There was a virtual exercise program that, for me, introduced me to Zumba, which I love, and a lot of wellness programs on all virtual, of course, on coping with change, combating social isolation. Next slide, please. So since reopening, we are back in full swing. We have the wellness programs that include now both in-person classes, and because of the popularity of the virtual exercise programs, there's nothing like just having to go to your kitchen to do it. The virtual programs are continuing. We have a lot of mental health programs, including programs on coping with change and decluttering, a lot of health programs, a mobile dentist, flu shots were offered. We have a podiatrist who comes in. We even have a pharmacist who offers free medication checkups. And the social programs are back in full swing. We had a week of holidays that was very well received. Every day was a different holiday. We do 5 to 8 trips per month to museums, to restaurants. There's a breakfast club and a happy hour every month. So there's a lot of opportunity for social interaction. Next slide, please. we want to thank you for the improvements that have been made to the center. The side garden gate has been completed, and that really provides an access to our outside garden courtyard, which is a very nice amenity for the members. And painting has given a much welcome refresh to the center. This is our wall of welcome signs in so many different languages. Next slide, please. Our short-term requests, I mentioned that we would like to do the survey so that we can find out about the needs of all of the residents, older adult residents in the city, and we ask for your support there. We also want to continue both functional and cosmetic upgrades to the BGC. The bathrooms need renovating, and the flooring needs replacement. There are certain places where it's buckling up, and this is really a safety issue. We'd also like to add a question to the city's 2022 biennial citizen survey, a question specifically addressing issues of older adults. Next slide, please. Our long-term requests. I should just like do this recording again and again and again, huh? Because we really want a freestanding senior center. The older adults deserve an investment in their quality of life and successful aging. And the first planning effort for a new center was in 2006. So this is not, so you've heard this again and again. The building was built in, our existing building was built in 1983. I have a child born then who now has 4 children. So, you know, it's not a young building. It was built as a hotel, converted to apartments, and the center has the bottom floor. We've outgrown that center. So we ask that you add the construction of a new freestanding senior center to both the FY24 capital improvement plan and the city master plan. Right now it's in there, but only as a recommendation. And we'd also like to make sure that the needs of older adults are included in the Lake Forest development plan. And we would wish to be kept abreast of any city facilities that may be built there. We'd like to have a voice there. Next slide, please. So here are our members enjoying some of our activities, and these are real people. One of the things that always gets me is these canned photos of happy smiling old people. So these are the real people doing the real activities, playing mahjong, taking advantage of the computer room, in the side garden, in the exercise room, playing poker. There's bridge and there's poker. There are more card games than you can imagine. And of course, playing pool. And to give you an idea, I use the center primarily for their exercise programs. To get to the exercise programs, you kind of have to dodge the pool players because the queue may come out and hit you. This is one of the reasons we're asking for a new center. And so our members having fun, and well, it doesn't show it here. These members spend money, pay taxes, and vote. So next slide, please. So before I get your feedback or try to answer your questions, I want to thank Charlene and Smitty and Carolyn Ryan. And along with the marvelous staff of BGC, they were really lucky to have such a great team there. So questions I can try to answer.
Thank you, Jean. Appreciate the presentation. I want to thank all of the members of the Senior Advisory Committee for the good work that they do for us. And I wanted to follow up on a couple of things that you've brought up here. first off, the short-term request for the bathroom renovation is in this budget and will be completed in this fiscal year. Flooring is being looked at, but probably not all in this fiscal year. I want to push back on 2 points that you made, just to gently push back. There was a question in the budget survey that mentioned senior programs. It did not specifically mention, if I could be misremembering this too, but I thought I remembered seeing one in there, and I think what the specifics that one of the members of the senior advisory committee called us out on was that it didn't specifically talk about a new senior center, but it did talk about programs for older adults. And so if anybody knows me to be wrong here, please correct me, but I think that was there. The other gentle pushback I will say is that the proposed freestanding senior center that was being planned in 2006 was a different thing from anything that we would do in the future. That was a joint project with Montgomery County, and Montgomery County backed out. So for those watching, I don't want to give the impression that the city had been planning all along for a freestanding senior center and then just arbitrarily sort of took it out of our budget because we decided to go with other priorities. In fact, we were and remain very disappointed that the county reneged on this partnership with us. And we're disappointed that that project could not come to fruition. But I'll say, if we do put a freestanding senior center into our CIP, it will be different. That will be a different project. So I don't want to conflate these two things. It's an entirely different thing to have a partnership with the county than to do this on our own with the expense of acquiring and constructing a senior center, which I'm sure we would all like to do. In fact, last week when we had our budget it wasn't the biennial, it was the budget survey presentation, and we did a live polling of the mayor and council members. And one of the things that got high scores was the need for a new senior center. I think this point is not lost on any of us. It's mostly a question of money. So now to get to another short-term point here that's on your list, you talk about the surveys, this first survey of older adults in the city of Gaithersburg. Is this something that do we have the budget for it? Like, what does it cost, and how will it be conducted?
Well, I don't believe we're going to need any money from you. So really, we're just asking for because we have investigated there, and we will use existing free. I mean, it will be done electronically and free, and a group of us are designing the survey and how we'd like it to look. And then it will be where I see we may need support is we've tried to design it in a way that will make interpreting the results fairly easy. But should we need more help with the analysis of the results, that's where I think we would probably ask for help from the city.
Okay.
But it's not a budget item. It's really, right now, we're just saying, please get behind us.
Okay. I mean, I think it would be valuable information to hear from the seniors in our community, to be sure. So I do want you to know that I and others that here at the dais will be thinking both inside and outside the box in terms of ways to make this long-term dream come true. So we can use whatever help that you guys have to offer on that score too. So I want to open it up to council members who'd like to comment or ask questions. Anybody? We'll go to Rob Wu, and then we'll go to Lisa.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Jean, for the presentation. Always welcome, informative. 2 questions, actually 1 statement. You had me at free, and so any initiatives to gain more information to guide our decision-making process, particularly those that don't cost anything, or even if there is a requirement for funding, certainly don't make that a prerequisite for it being free, a prerequisite for you to do something. If there's a legitimate reason for funding, please feel free. Question is, year after year, the presentation focuses on the need for a freestanding senior center, and rightfully so. And I think Judd hits it on, or the mayor hits it on the nail on the head. I think it's important. I think it should be a priority. And it is a question of funding, especially a freestanding structure. New construction is very expensive. So question I have is there the possibility or the inclination or the support for dedicated resources around the city that may, we've got the Benjamin Gaither Center, but if there is room for dedicated resourcing, dedicated space in another building where, you'll have supplemental essentially spacing, is that would that just confuse people?
Well, that's why we asked to be kept abreast of any plans about the building of city facilities during the Lake Forest Development Plan, because we have heard rumors that there may be a community center rather than a freestanding. And I think we absolutely would be open to that discussion about having others have done this, other community centers have done it, just Nancy Dasick, for example, right over in North Potomac, or so having a dedicated section in a community facility, I think we absolutely would be open to that. If a freestanding senior center is off the table,
not off, it's long-term planning, but more along the lines of, Lake Forest Mall, knock on wood, will have construction beginning next week. I'm sure it's not the case, but what about existing city facilities if there are opportunities to rededicate space? And Tanisha's probably, if I was sitting next to her, she'd be kicking me under the table. But to the extent there are opportunities for dedicating additional space and have essentially satellite type amenities for seniors, is kind of a stopgap pending the long-term budgeting and for new construction. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
I think we probably want to know more.
Is that question being directed to me, Rob? I'm not sure. I would say that we're always open to ideas. Certainly we have issues with housing our existing staff in our city facilities at this time, especially with the needs of keeping adequate space for staff. I would say our staffing space is inadequate. But, the flip side of that coin is, I don't think that all older adult activity occur now in the BGC. I think we have lots of older adults who participate in our programs at the activity center and all throughout, throughout the community.
Yeah.
So Charlene,
I'll
sorry.
comment also, Robert. We do hold different classes at different facilities throughout the city. One issue that we do run into is staffing. Like if we have a class at the youth center when they're typically closed, we have to send our staff over to do that, and plus whoever's teaching the class, things like that. So we do run into staffing issues with that.
Yeah, I'm aware of programming, but I'm talking more along the lines of dedicated space, and specifically along the lines of, as we move into 16 South Summit, hopefully, it will open up other areas of city resources and spacing, because we're going to be shuffling the deck essentially to fill the third floor in particular. So I anticipate that we're going to be having to make decisions on spacing requirements in the near future, hopefully when that project is completed. And so just throwing it out there as an idea of, just keep an eye on it. If it is something that the senior advisory committee is amenable to in programming physical space, not just programming and classes, but physical space, to have perhaps an East Side resource Just throwing ideas out there.
Thank you, Rob. We'll go to Lisa. Who, by the way, before you go, Lisa, I will be appointing Lisa to be the liaison to the Senior Advisory Committee. So,
Oh, wonderful.
go ahead, Lisa.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jean and Charlene, for this presentation and this information. I've been able to communicate with you all through email, and I'm looking forward to hopefully next week as a new council member visiting the center and meeting some of you personally for the first time. So I look absolutely forward to that. The information that you have provided for what the work that has been done and what's forthcoming is exceptional, and thank you. One of the questions I have is, in the survey that you're planning, what are some of the key things that you're looking for in terms of information back from seniors? Are there gaps that you recognize or?
Yeah, we've basically looked at, like sort of almost Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it's like housing, is affordable housing an issue? How about safety? Do you feel safe? Food security? It's those kinds of issues. And then we have asked for a rating, like, is this an issue for you? Is this a great concern? And a scale along those lines. So I think we have about 7 different issue areas where we've identified.
Okay, all right. Is the intent to kind of focus where you're going with programs and
right?
support?
What are the actual needs? Like, we have access to our members, but that's a very small proportion of the population. And I'll be happy to send you that. It's in a draft form right now. So we have like a little sub working group on it. But I'll be happy to send you a copy of that, where we are with that survey now.
Thank you.
Before we go to Ryan and then Jim, I wanted to suggest with this survey that because some of these, I'm glad Lisa asked that question, because some of these questions about needs may be answerable to some degree by our community advisory committee, because they're going after that same information. Have you guys been collaborating with them at all?
No, but I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, because
So who's that staff who would I go to make that connection?
that would be Maureen Herndon.
Okay. All right.
And we can follow up and make sure you guys are connected. Charlene, you know how to get in touch with Maureen.
I do too. I know her through my daughter.
Oh, that's true. Okay. We're going to go to Ryan and then.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks to Jean for the great presentation, and Carolyn and all the members of the committee for the great work you do. Really appreciate it. Always a pleasure to have you come and give your updates at the Mayor and Council meeting. Hopefully next time it'll be in person. One of the things I just wanted to say thank you in particular for was highlighting in your presentation the work that you all have done to address social isolation and mental health issues and meals in the wake of the COVID pandemic. The committee, and in particular the staff, really sprang into action on these issues, which are so important and have really been highlighted by the pandemic and exacerbated by the pandemic. And so I'm really glad you mentioned those. And I think we have some lessons learned for things that we can continue to do into the future, even after the pandemic is over, sort of like what you were talking about with some of the exercise classes that could continue to stay virtual. And we'll have a sort of new awareness of ways that we can provide programming in a hybrid environment. And, I think sometimes seniors get a bad rap when it comes to technology, but you all have been on the front lines really embracing this and done a great job. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to specifically point out that challenge and the way that you all responded to that challenge, and also give a special shout out to our staff who really helped drive that response as well. So thanks to the committee for that.
It was the staff. We can't take
Thank
credit.
you.
That was the staff.
Excellent, excellent. We'll go to Jim.
Thank you, Mayor and Jean and Sharon. Thank you so much for the kind welcome, and I'm looking forward to meeting you both in person. I want to echo what Ryan said about the work that the facility, the staff, and the committee have done during the pandemic, especially in the areas of isolation and mental health. I campaigned on the need for increased mental health resources, so I'm thrilled to see the work that is being done, and look forward to helping not just seniors but our city in general increase our access to mental health resources. I did want to ask a question about the efforts to get more information from the community, particularly when you mentioned that only 5% of our seniors are currently utilizing the Benjamin Gaither Center. And it definitely jumped out at me, the numbers that you quoted, that in 2040, that number jumped out because that's my target retirement year. So I will be a member of this demographic at that point. So Gen X, we should be paying attention to this.
Wait, how old are you?
47. So, but that being said, since only 5% of our older community is currently using the facility, what are you looking to do to expand your outreach to maybe reach some more of our community that aren't participating in your survey, and in efforts to get more people to utilize the resources that are available?
Well, that's survey number 2. And one of the things will be just knowing awareness. And as I think your friend Yvette Monroe often says, and former council member often says, we have to go to where the people are. So I know I have lived in the city for 30 years and I didn't know there was a senior center. And it was my daughter who works for the city who said, Mom, have you ever thought about the exercise programs at? So I think it's not just reaching older adults, it's also reaching adult children to make them aware of of the center and the program. So it really, I think that second survey is mostly awareness and a little bit what programs would you like to see, but we already have really great programs. So I think it's awareness. I think that's the issue.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. I mean, in marketing, we're always saying, you have to meet the people where they are, and making sure that we are getting there, and not just thinking about, well, how do they consume your services, but what are the other things that they're doing in the course of their day? And you're right, it could be adult children, it could be that sandwich generation that makes the connection for them, or even through the athletic programs, if grandparents are taking their kids, maybe it's, where kids are signing up, and like, oh, by the way, here are these other resources. So I'm glad to see that you're thinking about it, and certainly we're here to help.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We'll go to Neil.
All right, so I'll make my annual statement that although I am eligible for participating in the activities of the senior center, I remain in denial. But seriously, you're doing great work, and I really appreciate the presentation and everything I've seen, and especially the programs for people that were provided during the pandemic are really critical, and it's really wonderful that you're doing it. I also wanted to touch on the point that Jim just made regarding the fact that, with the number of seniors we have in the city, the number that are actually participating at this point is a very small percentage. So I agree that outreach is going to be important, but it'll be very interesting if you can determine if there are some level of programs that aren't being provided currently that need to be provided, and whether or not you have the space for it is another question. But I've got to think that if 90%, 95% of the people aren't being reached, then there may be a missing piece, and I would hope that you can do the research as part of this program going forward to figure out if there's something missing there. But I think you hit the nail on the head with the focus on providing people with socialization, especially in times of COVID, but in general. It's very difficult as we get older to maintain those regular social ties that are so important for our general mental well-being. And anything we can do to improve that is going to be really important. So I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and do more of it, and we'll try to help you any way we can.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Jim, go right ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to follow up on an idea that popped in my head when I was listening to Councilmember Harris. Is one of the questions that might be worth asking is our senior community receiving the same kind of services that they could get from the Benjamin Gaither Center from another source? So it's not that just they're not interested in it, they are just getting it elsewhere. It might help to identify those gaps.
And I know some of that is true. And I know because through my work with the Commission on Aging, I see members who I once saw at Benjamin Gaither now over at the Nancy Dasick Center because it's nicer. It's physically nicer. The staff isn't nicer, the programs aren't better, but there's physically more to do. You don't have to dodge pool cues going in. So I know there are seniors, residents of the city who are getting services through the county.
Neil, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So just following up with what you just said, is that a bad thing if the county's providing those services? I mean, if seniors are getting services that they need, does that mean that we're not doing something right? Or is it okay that they're getting it from the county? I mean, we live in the county as well as in the city. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think well, I'm not an expert on this, but I think that the Benjamin Gaither Center offers things to residents like just transportation. And that's not available to those that are going to Nancy Dasick, to North Potomac, but just the fact that we provide a bus that goes and picks members up and brings them, those who don't have their own transportation. So there's a segment, so I see what you're saying. So maybe it's not necessarily always a bad thing, but we do things, we provide services that the county doesn't provide. And for example, I keep picking on Nancy Dasick, but we have a kitchen and we're working on the meals program, post-COVID, and that's not available. The same service isn't available at Nancy Dasick.
Fair enough. So this is the time I'm going to open it up to the public. We have some people in the audience tonight. If they want to testify, I want to open it up to them. Tech team, can you play the instructional video for anybody who'd like to testify this evening?
Good evening. If you've connected to the meeting tonight via Zoom and you're on a desktop or a laptop and you wish to make a public comment, we can't currently see or hear you. What you need to do, please, is wiggle your mouse around and look towards the bottom center of your screen. You should see a raise hand button. Go ahead and click on that now for us, please. Alternatively, if you've connected in via telephone, you can press *9.
Thank you. So if anybody would like to speak, I see at least one hand up. We ask that you keep your comments to no more than 3 minutes. If you have more than 3 minutes worth of material, just by all means, use your 3 minutes here tonight, but just email us your full testimony. We'll consider it just like oral testimony. State your name and address or neighborhood if you feel more comfortable. And tech team, if you can bring up Dave Belgard. Dave, just unmute yourself, state your name, address, or neighborhood, and go right ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Dave Belgard, Washingtonia Woods. A couple months ago, I had done some research after talking to Mary from the committee about the senior center, and did note that seniors are growing not only in number, but as a portion of our population. And as such, I just feel it's very important to make sure that we're taking care of that portion, that growing portion of our population appropriately. And, you know, if there is, you know, just this older building that does not fully support that segment of the population. And I know that the council, you know, is already on board with doing this, but I think it's very important to look at whether or not there's some outside the box ways that we can address the need. It doesn't have to be a whole standalone center. It could be, you know, a portion of another facility or anything else. But we do spend a lot of money on our parks, which is important, and we do spend a lot of money on programs for our youth, which is important. Where we spend our money tells us what we consider important. And like I said, this is a growing portion of our population. And I think that we need to make sure that we're showing that we consider it to be important as well. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you very much, Dave. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak tonight? Just use the Zoom raise hand function, please. I see. Okay, tech team, if you could bring up Mary Hoffrick, please. Mary, just unmute yourself, state your name and address or neighborhood, and go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Mary Hoffrick, and I'm speaking as a private citizen, not as a committee member. I don't go to the senior center because, one, I don't play a lot of cards. I don't want to sit around. The activities there are not active enough for me. I like to play tennis. Pickleball is big in the community now. There's no place to play pickleball. There's no place to really be active there. So Neil, in my opinion, you hit it on the head. We're not attracting active seniors because there's nothing to do there. I also disagree with a community center. I think that other communities have standalone senior centers, and that's what we need for our community. We need some outdoor space. We need some activities that can attract other people. You'll notice that almost nobody in the 55 to 60 age group participates at the center. Well, you know what? They work till 5 or 6 and we're closed by then. So anyway, those are my comments. Thank you for the opportunity to present them, and welcome to the new council members.
Thank you very much, Mary. Do we have any other testimonies tonight? Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll end our public comments there. Any further, I think Mary brought up, I think Dave and Mary brought up good points, and they're well taken. Any further comments or questions before we move on? Council members? Not seeing any? Okay. Well then, Jean and Charlene, we appreciate the presentation, and we will add all this into the stew of things we have to factor in when we're making decisions. And we appreciate the work you're doing, and all, as I said, all of the committee members, and look forward to working together to serve this need in our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, tech team, let me just get to the right part. If you could bring up, we're going to get to our Environmental Affairs Committee annual briefing. You could bring up Chloe Maloof, our vice chair of the committee, Christine Chin Choi, member of the committee, and Deb Moran, our sustainability coordinator. Welcome all, and I will leave it in your hands to lead the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Ashman and City Council. I am Chloe Maloof, the Vice Chairperson of the Environmental Affairs Committee, and I am joined by committee member Christine Chin-Choi to present to you our committee's annual briefing. Thank you again for having us this evening. We are excited to tell you about our progress and initiatives we have moving forward. As a reminder, the Environmental Affairs Committee's mission is to advise Mayor and City Council on environmental issues, promote environmental education and outreach activities, monitor county, state, and federal regulations for environmental impacts on city operations, explore new environmental initiatives, and support the city's Green Month celebration and programs related to green buildings, climate protection, pollution prevention, and watershed protection. Next slide, please. Great. So environmental justice. One of our newer initiatives is working on environmental justice in Gaithersburg. Environmental justice is the equitable distribution of environmental costs like pollution and environmental benefits like clean water, regardless of race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, income, religion, ability, etc. Everyone deserves equitable access to clean air, water, food, and natural spaces in their local community. The Environmental Affairs Committee wants to hear about our community's members' needs, concerns, and ideas. So we decided to make an environmental justice survey, or the Environment and Equity Survey. The results of the survey will inform us where and how we utilize our resources for our next initiatives. We strive to serve everyone equitably in our community, especially those with the most need. The survey allows the EAC to better represent the interests of our community. The survey has been undergoing collaboration and review in several monthly committee meetings and is in the process of being finalized now and will be ready to publish in 2022. We are aiming for a February launch as we work with additional outreach with community groups, social justice organizations, and local environmental organizations. I believe this survey is of vital importance to build community connection and trust in our community to help the EAC be most impactful moving forward. The support we are looking for from the Mayor and City Council once our survey is published in 2022 is, of course, taking the survey yourselves as members of our community and also using your platform as leaders with extensive connections in our community to spread the word about the survey and encourage others to fill it out as well. Next slide, please.
So our second goal for this year was to have community events related to environmental issues. So we actually gave out back in March 16 environmental awards. Of those awards, 8 were achievement awards, 6 were appreciation awards, 2 were for Green Friends of Gaithersburg awards. And the winners were all celebrated on social media and in e-newsletters. We also hosted some events during Green Month, and which included a food waste film screening. We had presentations on pesticides and recycling. There were 6 community cleanup events, and there was also a sustainability summit. And as you see there on the slide, we also had a Morris Park tree walk, which was all socially distanced to take care of COVID. Next slide, please. Another goal we had for this year was to reduce waste. So we actually worked on finding a spot, locating and building a second food waste collection site, which was opened at Casey Community Center back on August 3rd of this year. Just to give you a little bit of numbers on how that's doing, in 2 months, 3,390 pounds of food waste was collected. For comparison, at the other food waste site, which is located at the Public Works facility on Rabbit Road, we collected 3,620 pounds in 1 month. So this facility, the new facility, is well on its way to competing or having similar collection as the first site. So we're very happy about that. We also are coordinating the first Fix-It Fair for the city of Gaithersburg. It's going to be on April 23rd of the coming year, and it will be hosted at the Casey Community Center. It is going to be the day after Earth Day, so we're hoping to maximize people's green interests and try to get some people to participate. So a Fix It Fair is basically a free event where people from the public can come in and get their items fixed. So we would rather save our stuff rather than throw it in the garbage. So we're going to focus on 5 categories of fixing: small appliances, lamps, tool sharpening, clothing, and jewelry. So right now we're working on a call for volunteer fixers for the event, and our goal is to have 30-minute appointments. And hope to get as much fixing as we can get done within a reasonable amount of time. So we're very excited for that, and we hope that the city will continue to support this event. And if all goes well, this will be an annual event for the city. Next slide, please. Our last major goal, our 4th goal for this year was to also increase our community outreach. So we actually had a community cleanup event in Old Town just in October. And we also hosted 2 community shredding events. One was in April and the other one was in October of this year. Both events, just to give you some numbers for those events, in April, 276 cars came through and 2,075 pounds of e-waste was collected and 14,160 pounds of paper was collected. In October, we also did pretty well, 252 cars, about 1,100 pounds of e-waste and 11,000 pounds, 560 pounds of paper. And in addition to that, we also worked on a Sustainability Maryland Community Pulse Survey, and that survey was posted in, I'd say late April, early June. We were able to get 175 respondents, and to give you some numbers on that, just some of the highlights we got. Areas of major environmental concern, about 97% of respondents were very interested in clean water and sanitation. 90% of respondents were interested in tree preservation, and 84% of our respondents were also very interested in recycling. About 47% of those respondents were likely to attend a virtual EAC meeting, so there is interest in our group. We're very excited about that. And then about 60% of respondents learn about environmental programs through the City of Gaithersburg website. So it was quite comforting to see that the city is a great information site for our residents. So we ask that the city continue to support these things that we're putting out there for the public. Next slide, please.
Some of the other issues that came across our committee this year have included Kelly Park. We had a couple community members express concern about some tree removal in Kelly Park and different changes being made there. We communicated with the City of Gaithersburg's environmental planner to indicate that the revised tree manual will reflect a true one-to-one tree replacement and to reevaluate and update the native species list. We also drafted a memo to the City Planning Committee to indicate how we suggest they incorporate the Montgomery County's Climate Action Plan into the Lake Forest Master Plan. And we also drafted a similar letter to the City Manager saying that we felt strongly that the county incorporate the BEPS, the Building Energy Performance Standards, and that we support this new legislation. We also are evaluating the sustainability impacts of the water resources and management in the master plan to give feedback to the city as well. We also have gotten the chance to meet with other local citizen groups, and this is also a part of our environmental justice outreach initiatives, as well as just a goal that we had for the committee overall. We've already met with the East Gaithersburg United, and they were a fantastic group to speak with. They had a lot of really important topics to bring up to us. And we've also presented at the Isaac Walton Lee Gaithersburg chapter, which was great as well. So we are already feeling like we're establishing more connections in the community. Next slide, please.
For the coming year, 2022, our plans and goals are to continue improving our community engagement and awareness of the Environmental Affairs Committee. And we look forward to hosting more public events in 2022. And if we are still in the situation we're in today and we can't have physical events, then we will continue to do more virtual events. We also want to continue to learn more about environmental justice. So as Chloe mentioned earlier, we're working on this survey that will be published this year, and we are eager to see the results of that. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we are planning to have our first Fix It Fair in April of this year. We will continue to refine and implement a new Sustainable Maryland Action Plan, and we will work more on sustainable options such as the cleanup events. And we'll work on developing a weed management plan for wild spaces. Next slide, please.
We also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the retirement of a long-serving member, Doug Wolfe. Doug has been in the committee since its origins, I believe, and he has been so dedicated to sustainability in Gaithersburg and has been just a very active member of the community. He moved, which was of course a loss, but in the meantime, we have a lot of people showing interest. So we have a lot of fresh interest in the committee. We've even increased our membership to 9 seats. We currently have 8 active seats, and everyone's very active in the committee. So hopefully we will bring on a new member soon. And we've already had a few visitors come in and see what it's like to be a member. Everyone in the committee is very passionate about our goals, and we look forward to making even more progress and working with you all in the future, especially in this coming year, as we have exciting plans. And any questions? That is it. Opening up for questions.
Thank you so much, Chloe and Christine. Great presentation. I know a lot of the interest from members of the public in joining the committee comes through me. So I happen to notice that there are a bunch of people interested in it. In fact, I had someone complain to me today that they would love to join this committee, but they don't think they're going to be able to because there's not enough openings. And I just suggested that he attends the meetings anyway as a member of the public, and when there's an opening, he'll know about it first. But that's a good sign, and I think it's indicative of the fact that this committee is doing meaningful work. Like you guys are doing outstanding things. Traditionally, this is a committee, and you guys are carrying the torch. But traditionally, this committee has really kept us on the cutting edge of environmental policy and legislation here in Gaithersburg. We've done, like, the list of things we're proud of is really, really long. And a lot of it has to do with initiatives that were first suggested to us by the Environmental Affairs Committee. So we thank you very much, you and all of your fellow members of that committee. And I'm very excited to see so much interest in the public in joining you guys. Also wanted to give you kudos on the cool idea of the Fix It Fair. This is the first I recall hearing about it. Deb's probably saying, oh, you got an email about this a month ago or 2 months ago. Whatever. Maybe I did. Okay. I've been busy lately, but this really strikes me as a cool idea. I'm eager to see how it plays out, and hopefully people will take advantage of it. I know I'm not the world's greatest fix-it guy, so I kind of feel like I should be going around the house looking for stuff I could bring there to get fixed. So cool idea. And I want to open it up to the council members. We'll go with Ryan first for questions and comments.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll echo what you said already. And thanks to Chloe, to Christine, and the entire committee. Y'all are continuing to do excellent work. And I'm particularly impressed by the innovation. It's not just, that you're doing meaningful work, as the mayor said, but coming up, this is a topic that people are passionate about. Sometimes you feel like you're going to just ultimately exhaust all the possible ideas that you could do out there at the advisory, voluntary committee level. And then, the second I think there's nothing left, there's 100 new ideas like the Fix It Fair and other things that you mentioned in the presentation that can still come at us. And I think that's great. Keep doing that. Keep pushing the envelope, because we are proud that Gaithersburg is on the cutting edge on a lot of environmental policies. And the mayor's right that a lot of that has come from the initiatives and ideas of our EAC. I also just wanted to say I really appreciate that you all are focusing on and highlighting environmental justice. I've had a couple of conversations offline with the mayor over the last several months about environmental justice. And I think there's a lot of educating that still needs to be done with the public. People don't always know what we mean when we're talking about environmental justice. And I think, Chloe, you started off the presentation with a really good, simple definition of what it is and why it's important. And, in the background, in many ways, it's something that advocates and lawyers have been working on for decades, but it's not necessarily always in the public consciousness. And we're sort of at a crossroads moment these last couple of years, really focusing on equity issues. And it's important that that larger equity conversation include environmental justice. So thank you for putting the focus on that as well. Final comment. In the last couple of years in my work with the Maryland Municipal League, one of the things that we really focused on was climate resiliency. And I know, again, as an advisory committee, you have, limited time and capacity, but to the extent you all might find it interesting and worthwhile to look into that angle of environmental activism and environmental investment, I am personally interested in it. And I know we as a city, through our public works department and through our other initiatives, are always thinking about climate resiliency with our facilities and infrastructure. But given what's going on in the national political conversation and the potential for hopefully some funding, some serious funding that could be coming down from the federal government level down to the city level, I'm starting to think a lot about what we want to be investing in and focusing on and prioritizing from the infrastructure resiliency perspective, which to me is an environmental issue. So I just put that out there as food for thought for the committee. And again, thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Neil, please go ahead.
All right, once again, thanks for the presentation and thanks for all your work. And this has been and continues to be one of the most energetic and active committees that we have. I mean, we have lots of good committees, but this one never fails to come up with new and interesting ideas. I love the environmental awards. I remember before I was on the council, but when I was on the Kentlands HOA, we were very proud to accept, I think, our third or fourth consecutive award. And it was a big deal for us. So I think that it has an impact. It motivates people to do more good. And I'm glad to see that you're somehow carrying on without Doug Wolfe's presence anymore. I know he was a big part of what you folks were doing, but the fact that you've got, you're able to continue that momentum and build on it going forward is great. I'm curious if you have any. I have a slightly left field idea on top of the Fix-It Fair. I've got a house full of electronics that is not entirely up to date, but are working. So they don't need fixing. They just need a good home. I've got a 46-inch flat screen TV that's a little bit past its expiration date, but works beautifully, and a whole bunch of stereo receivers and other electronic equipment. Would that be appropriate to bring to a Fix-It Fair and look for a home, or is there some other ideas that you have of what to do with it? I just thought I'd throw that out there because my wife is bugging me to get rid of all this stuff already. But in general, I think just, keep doing what you're doing because you're doing a lot of good for the city, and we support you 100% here.
Thank you. I just want to respond to that. We with the Fix-It Fair can very easily grow into a lot of things. So reuse of equipment is not something we're specifically going to plan for just yet. But I believe, Deb, we talked about having a recycling. We're going to have a e-waste recycling event right after this. So if something cannot be fixed, we will recycle it or have the opportunity to take the material for recycling later on.
All right, and if anybody in this meeting or watching needs a new TV, just let me know.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, the city does have programs like when we have to get rid of computers that aren't really at the end of their life and can be reused. There's a program that IT uses where they wipe everything clean, and then I believe it goes to schools or other people in need. So that might be another option for you.
Yeah, and there's free Facebook groups too, where people share free stuff they don't need anymore. I'm sure you'll find find a way, Neil. Any other questions or comments? We'll go to Rob Wu.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you both for the presentation today. It's very informative and very much I'm in favor of the innovation and initiatives that you've been undertaking. I track all the emails. Perhaps I've been a little remiss in my council liaison role, and I may or may not blame the children for that. But when I can, I hope to make it soon to start attending events, meetings again. I especially appreciate the picture of Doug in that presentation. You could have chosen any picture, but that was the best picture you could have chosen. And it's great to see the transition in leadership. I mean, Doug did a phenomenal job and the dedication that he put into the committee in leading it and all the energy he put in. I'm very happy to see the changing of the guard into such capable hands. I'll commend to you what I always say is I think the EAC should be a lot more than it has been, and it's developing into that. And so I want to see the EAC be that advisory arm to the council, getting involved in legislative decisions, advising on those. And there's been quite a few initiatives over the years that have come out of the EAC and that have made its way to the council and ultimately resulted in legislation. And so, I very much appreciate the involvement in the community and those types of events, and very much am in support of continuing in those innovative ideas, but also commend to the committee that I value their opinions and their guidance and their insights, as well as staff. I'm looking at Deb and Michael, and the input that is provided on legislative matters is very much valued. So thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Any other questions or comments before we go to the public? Not seeing any hands go up. I will open this up, and if anybody from the public would like to speak, just use the Zoom raise hand function. I see one hand up. Tech team, if you could bring up Jamil Hernandez, that would be great. Jamil, just unmute yourself, state your name and address or neighborhood, and go right ahead.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Jamil Hernandez from the Kellens. I'm just calling to pitch my support for community or citywide composting. I'm aware of a few communities within the city that are currently doing it. So, and the county is also pursuing some initiatives there as well. The city has now 2 community drop-off locations, but I'm especially interested in curbside options that could help reach, all throughout the city. I don't know if working with local HOAs and seeing if there can be some group purchasing and some budgeting on it. So just calling to express my support behind that. We've taken out, close to 50,000 pounds of waste from landfills, and I think we could do a lot more throughout the city. Thank you. That was all. And great job on the EAC and the presentation, the work that you do.
Thank you, Jamil. Any other testimonies tonight? Just use the Zoom raise hand function. Going once, going twice. Okay, I don't see any others. I think that's a fair suggestion, and actually one I've heard from a number of people. It would be interesting to know what the logistics and costs might be for an expanded composting program. Deb, I don't know if this is something you guys would undertake or if it's something that we would just ask Public Works to take a look at. What are your thoughts?
We've actually been looking at curbside compost for a while now. To put it in perspective, we pay something like $5 a household per month for recycling. It's about triple that for compost, so it's a little bit more difficult of a pill to swallow. But we recently did separate our line item for the fees on tax bills for recycling. So there could be potentially an opportunity for people to opt into a curbside program in the future. We just feel a little weird forcing it on everyone when it's that expensive. And we are looking at our third compost drop-off location now, trying to find a good spot for it too. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that info. Any other questions or comments from the council before we adjourn here? Not seeing any. Okay, well, Chloe and Christine and Deb, we thank you all so much for your leadership and for your presentation, and agree in your shout out to Doug. Doug did a fantastic job. We honored him at a council meeting when he was just leaving, and we feel like we were so blessed to have him and his service for that many years. So thank you, and you guys have a big torch to carry, and I'm sure you're going to do great at it. And I will note that the next regular meeting of Mayor and Council is a week from today. I believe it's November 6th, or is it? Denise, you know what the date is of that meeting? I don't have it handy. What's next Monday's date?
Yeah, I was trying to find my mute button and the calendar at the same time. And I think it is the 6th, December 6th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so the next regular meeting of Mayor and Council is on Monday, November 6th, 7:30 p.m. However, you're watching us now, you can watch us then when you want to participate in the Zoom. Same deal. I will note that Winter Lights is open. It's running. You have to buy your tickets for Winter Lights in advance online, but please do. It's a great time. And this Friday, December 3rd, I now have my calendar up. I will note to people in the community is the state championship, the 4A state championship football game in Annapolis at Navy Stadium. Our own Quince Orchard Cougars are facing the Wise Pumas from Prince George's County, and it should be amazing. 2 undefeated teams. Where I know some of us are going to be out there in force supporting our Quince Orchard Cougars, and hopefully you can too. So with that, let's do great things, Gaithersburg. We are adjourned.